On Into Your Head number 744. Stuff about Mars, stuff about dogs on Mars, stuff about dogs going to Mars, stuff about the world in general, or the world specifically, and as to, well, you see what I mean as we go along, and lots more. Into your head. I've always been a great believer in the dictum quod ete arachnophobia racagum, which, as you're no doubt fully aware, means, well, you're probably not fully aware about the last couple of syllables of that, which accidentally became the word agum, which is an Irish word for which I don't really have an English translation, because it's one of those words that doesn't translate very well. It doesn't really mean much. It's more of a grammatical thing. You'd say something agum, for example. Or you'd say toe along something agum. That's it in context. Still doesn't mean anything on its own. It's like if you were English, which you probably are, or you're a native English speaker, and you were to say, let's think of an example now. Let's say if you were to say, disestablish, and he'd say to me, there's no direct translation for the phrase disestablish, because it's only a small part of a bigger context. It's part of the word anti-disestablishmentarianism. You can't translate part of a word, you have to translate the whole word. Well, a gum would be a bit like that in a way, except it's not. That's the problem. I can't think even of a comparison to make it clear. Yes, so just forget about it. Stop trying to pick up bits of the Irish language, for Christ's sake. There's no point picking up bits of a language. You have the whole language and nothing but the language, or else you have no language at all. There's no interludeary happy medium. So stop with your crap. Stop with your crap and just shut up and listen to the following podcast. We've a lot to get on with today. Items that need to be attended to, issues that need to be addressed, topics. Oh, topics. We've got lots and lots of topics. We're positively booming to the seams with topics. We've got topics coming out of this mouth. This mouthful orifice. This more mouthful outlet. It's an outlet. It's not an inlet. Well, it's an inlet when it's being used as an inlet. But in its current, it's coming to you today in its capacity as an outlet, not an inlet. The stuff to be coming into my mouth, I can tell you, it won't be words. I've got other places. You don't take in words through the same orifice through which you put them out. That's disgusting. There's a reason why the words come out from an entirely different part of your body than the words go in. Although admittedly it's not that far away. It's only a couple of inches away, because they say, apparently it's perfectly safe for your head to take in words as well as take them out. If there was a tree and it was taking in both carbon dioxide and oxygen through the same orifice, that would be considered dangerous. To say that tree is a danger to society. There's only a couple of inches between where the carbon dioxide comes in and the oxygen goes out, and if those two get mixed up or contaminated in some way, that could poison every human being in the world, or outside the world for that matter, or depending on what you consider the world to be. I consider the world to be Earth. Not anything outside of Earth is outside of the world. It's another world, or else it's the space between the worlds. If there's another Mars, incidentally, the other planets in this solar system are not themselves worlds, because there's nobody in them. If in order for it to be a world, there has to be someone in it saying, hello, I'm in this world, I'm of this world. Now, you can travel to Mars all you like, but until you get there, it doesn't exist. It's not a world, because there's nobody there to claim it as a world. There's nobody sitting there on top of that frigging Mars rover robot revolver, whatever the fucking hell it's called. The Mars rover peanut tracker bar that's going around there with its wheels at 2 inches a year. There's nobody there to say, oh look, this rover is of this world. For a start, it's not. It's from another world. It's from our world, and Mars has no right to claim it. Mars bar or no Mars bar, that's not Mars's robot. No matter what you might choose to call it, you can call it the Mars rover all you want. You can call it the so-called Mars, so-called Curiosity rover, or you can say it's not the so-called Curiosity rover, it's the Curiosity rover because it's called that. Well, that still means it's the so-called Curiosity rover. Everything is the so-called something. This is a so-called podcast because it's so-called. If it was called, I might change the name of this podcast to the so-called Into Your Head podcast, and then everyone would have to say it's the so-called Into Your Head podcast, except they wouldn't have to say because there's not a law. There's no law saying you have to call it that, but he'd sound pretty stupid if he didn't do it, so it's effectively a law. It's effectively a law just by osmosis. Hold on a minute, I'll just put my glasses back on. Bear with me. That goes over this. This goes over this ear, which is a problem if you're wearing headphones. Fuck. Go on, there you go. I should probably edit this out. Will I edit this out? Note to future self. Consider editing this out, and if this is still here when you listen back to it during the editing process, it means you've decided not to edit it out, so you can ignore this note. Anyway, 2 dogs walk into a bar on Mars. One of the dogs goes straight up to the bar counter and says, I hope to Christ this is one of those trendy oxygen bars that they started talking about in the news about 5 years ago that got very trendy. People used to go out to these oxygen bars and you'd plug into an oxygen thing and you get an oxygen high. It was just like that thing you get at the dentist that makes you laugh, the laughing gas. It was a bit like that, and there was a trend. Everybody was doing articles about it a few years ago. It was just like a few years before that when everyone was doing articles about the new craze called podcasting. A couple of years after that, there was a new craze called oxygen bars. Anyway, the dog goes straight up to the bar and says, I hope to Christ this is an oxygen bar. And the man behind the bar says, no sir, it isn't, but I do have a spare oxygen tank here. I keep one here in emergencies in case I nearly become dead from the failure of the one I'm wearing. So please know if my oxygen suit fails, I'll need to take this back off you straight away. And the dog says, that's fine, I understand. I'm a dog, I know my place. Humans are more important than me. I know my place in society, even if it's a new society on Mars. I assume the same role that I assumed in my old society back on Earth. And the man behind the bar says, are you telling me that you came all the way from Earth? How old are you? You're a dog. And the dog says, I'm 7 years of age. I spent the last 3.5 years travelling through space at a great speed. Fantastic. Well, not that great if it took 3.5 years, obviously, but great enough to get me to Mars within half a dog's lifetime. Isn't it absolutely fucking fantastic? And the man behind the bar says, it is indeed. Do you want to put this suit on now? Because you seem to be, you don't look very well, if you don't mind me saying so. And the dog says, well, I am a dog. Well, what's a dog supposed to look like? And the man behind the bar says, good point, but it's not going to be a very enjoyable point for you if you don't put this oxygen tank on. And the dog puts the oxygen tank on. He puts the tank on his back and he puts the suit over his front legs because it's designed for humans. He puts the sleeves over his front legs and he puts the trouser legs bit over his back legs. And the man behind the bar says, oh, that's interesting. That's exactly how I imagined the dog would wear one of these. Makes perfect sense. And the dog says, of course it does. There's no big, huge anatomical differences between a four-legged animal and a humanoid. It's just that instead, you just, wherever you see something for arms, you just replace it with the thought that they're for your front legs. It's perfectly simple. And if there's anything with gloves on it, they're just like socks. You just don't fill up the finger parts very well. It's absolutely fine. As long as there's probably room for a bit of an air pocket in the little fingers there if you're wearing gloves. I wonder, is that bad for you? Maybe not. Or maybe does it become a vacuum or an air pocket? I don't know what happens when you're on Mars. This is all new ground we're covering here, hence the name Curiosity Rover. And the man behind the bar says, "Oh, are you the Curiosity Rover? I always thought that was a robot, not a dog." And the dog says, "Well, that's rather, it was rather presumptive of you. A rover is a very common name for a dog, and I'm a dog, and I'm a curious dog, because I was crossed with a cat a couple of generations ago. And as they say, curiosity killed the cat. Well, thankfully in this case it didn't, because you saved my life with this oxygen tank suit which I'm now wearing." And the man behind the bar says, "Well, thanks for explaining that." And the dog says, "Oh, thanks, that's very clever, thanks, because it's an oxygen tank, except there's only one oxygen tank, so that doesn't work, because that have to be plural." And the man behind the bar says, "Well, I'm wearing one too, so there's at least two in the vicinity here." And the dog says, "Fair enough, fair enough, fair enough." And the man behind the bar says, "Indeed it is. Have we run this story into the ground yet?" And the dog says, "What do you mean yet? That assumes that you think we are going to run this story into the ground." And the man behind the bar says, "Well, we usually do, don't we?" And the dog says, "Speak for yourself." And the man behind the bar says, "I am speaking for myself. I'm hardly going to speak for you, am I?" And the dog says, "Well, that's rather unkind. I'd save your life if I could. I'm man's best friend, but he won't even speak for me." And the man behind the bar says, "Well, you're doing a perfectly adequate job of doing it for yourself. If you weren't able to speak, I'd speak for you if I could, but I'd have to be able to read your mind." And the dog says, "And you're saying you're assuming that he wouldn't be able to read my mind? That's the very defeatist attitude." And the man behind the bar says, "Indeed it is, indeed it is." And the dog says, "Indeed it is, indeed it is." And the man behind the bar says, "Indeed it is, indeed it is. Do you see what I mean now about running this story into the ground?" And the dog says, yes I do, but I remain optimistic." And the man behind the bar says, "Well, I don't think you're going to be optimistic for much longer." And the dog says, "Well, I think you're wrong. I think you're going to be proved wrong." And the man behind the bar says, "And when's that going to happen?" And the dog says, "Now that you mention it, it's not." And the man behind the bar says, "I rest my case." And the dog says, "I thought you said it wasn't that kind of a bar." And the man behind the bar says, it's not, but I rest my case nonetheless. It's a metaphorical case. I'm not claiming to be a barrister at the bar. I'm claiming to be a barman at the bar. I'm not claiming it at all. It's up here in writing behind me on this certificate that I'm pointing at now. Despite this being an audio program, I'm pointing, and I'm not even pointing behind the bar. I'm pointing up at the ceiling in my spare bedroom. It's fucking ridiculous. I'm pointing here while I'm making up a story about a dog in a bar on Mars. You ever heard anything so ridiculous in all your life? The dog says, I just did, except it doesn't seem all that ridiculous to me because I'm part of it and it's very real to me. And the man behind the bar says, you've got a hell of a lot to learn about rock and roll. And the dog says, oh, that's meatloaf, isn't it? And the man behind the bar says, no, this is just leftover beef from the Sunday buffet. And the dog says, oh, very witty indeed. And the man behind the bar says, that's great. And the dog says, what is? And the man behind the bar says, oh, nothing, I was thinking about something else. And the dog says, what's great about something else? And the man behind the bar says, well, that depends on what it is, doesn't it? And the dog says, exactly, so what's great about whatever it is something else is? Or in other words, what is something else? Because if you tell me what the something else is, then I might instantly know what's great about it, and then you won't have to explain any further. But if you tell me what it is, and then I don't instantly realise what's great about it, then you'll still have to answer my question as to what's great about something else. Although I suppose you won't have to, not obliged by law to do so or anything, but it would kind of grind the conversation to a halt if you didn't. And the man behind the bar says, it's not my job to keep up conversation in the bar. I'm not a patron. I'm here to serve the drink. If you come here for conversation, have the conversation with other patrons, not the staff. And the dog says, oh, excuse me, and where are these other patrons, may I ask? And the man behind the bar says, I believe they're shipping another 3 patrons every 2 years from Earth. And the man behind the dog behind the space in front of the bar behind which stands the man says, oh, I forget what I'm replying to now. And the man behind the bar says, it's time for a brief commercial interlude, and a great night is had by all.
Into your head.
Remember, we value the opinions of you, the humble and ignorant listener. Email Neal at studio@intoyourhead.com.
Support the Podcastual Arts at no cost to you. Just click through the Amazon link at intoyourhead.com whenever you go shopping for anything, even if you use Amazon UK or Canada. We'll take your weird foreign money here. We're not proud. Just visit intoyourhead.com and click on the appropriate Amazon banner.
Monkey nuts, that's what they call them. They call them big, steaming, shit-eating, piss-piling, monkey nut vomit-inducing piles. Oh, excuse me. I'm very sorry about that. I belched. I'm sorry to all the offence I've caused. Somebody commented on this podcast in a review in the iTunes Canada store. They commented that they don't like my belching. They disapprove of me belching. They disapprove of me not keeping wind trapped inside my body that could cause me to die. You have to let air go, you know. If it's going to come out, you have to cock up your leg and let it free. Like that, the Beatles' new song that came out a few years ago. They got a track of John Lennon recording off old tapes and they put together a song. Went a little something like that. I like this rather. It went free as a bird. The next best thing to be. I better stop there because there's copyright restrictions there. I don't own the rights to the Beatles as free as a bird. The Beatles probably own it. Well, you get the idea. You have to release the belch. No matter what the Canadians may think about it. These Canadians, they come along and they think, oh, look at me, I'm a Canadian. I'm going to go into iTunes and this podcast that I've listened to. I'm going to say something about him belching because I object to people belching. This guy's 3,000 miles away from me at the other side of the Atlantic Ocean, but apparently his belching has an impact on me. I can tell you, if my belching had an impact on you, the smallest of your problems would be whether or not my belching had an impact on you. It would be whether or not the resulting earthquake was to destroy your country. Not that I want to destroy your country. I have no wish to destroy Canada or any other North American country, or any other country for that matter. Why would I want to destroy a country? Christ, though. It's more to life than going around destroying countries. That's not to say it can't be part of your life. It just shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. In fact, it probably can't be part of your life unless you have enough power to do so. In order to destroy a country, you'd have to have a lot of power or wit or some sort of, I don't know, what would you need to have to destroy a country? Well, I'm not going to think about that too much because if I come up with an accurate answer, then it'll be the equivalent of giving out instructions on how to destroy a country, and that'll be tantamount to doing the above, giving out instructions on how to destroy a country, which is not something I want to do. I don't want to, although I would be proud of myself if I figured out how to destroy a country. I just keep it to myself myself. In fact, I'd probably make sure I destroy my brain so that I don't want to end up like the fella who invented the hydrogen bomb or whatever it's called, and be racked with guilt for the rest of eternity. So if I ever do figure out how to destroy a country, hopefully I'll have the intelligence to figure out how to destroy just a part of my brain that stores that information. Surely to Christ that can be done. If you can figure out how to destroy a country, surely to Christ you can figure out how to destroy a small part of your brain and allow the rest of it to survive. For all I know, I could have done that already successfully, in which case I've done a damn good job of it, haven't I? Absolutely fucking fantastic. Anyway, as I say, monkey nuts, that's what they call them, monkey nuts. Now, I know what you're thinking there. You're thinking this episode is very the world stroke monkey nuts stroke Mars stroke destroying a country centric. Well, so far it is, but you've only heard 2/3 of it yet. I haven't even made the third yet. I don't even know that these are 2/3. I only assume that there's going to be another third. May it well turn out that it's just that it's another quarter or that it's another sixth. You can't predict fractions like that, no matter how clever you're not fucking Professor Stephen Hawking, and even if you are, Professor Stephen Hawking isn't psychic. He just gives off that appearance by doing his thing that he does with the thing in front of his mouth and the thing in front of his winky eyebrow thing. No, he doesn't do the winky eyebrow thing anymore. I'm not sure. Maybe he doesn't. I don't know. He used to have a thing coming out of his glasses that would monitor his blinking and would say, Professor Stephen Hawking blinks, therefore that means that the universe works in the following way, and they would automatically write 3 more chapters of a book based on his blink. I tell you, if you have that much power in your right frigging eyelid, you fucking want it to go paralyzed, because you won't want to end up like me with the ability to destroy a country. You can probably do that. So that's probably why he said, fuck this for a shot. If I can achieve all this with one eyelid, I think I need to stop using this eyelid before I invent the nuclear bomb again, or rediscover it or something, or do something equivalent. What would be the equivalent of reinventing the nuclear bomb? I suppose reinventing the nuclear bomb would be the equivalent, but it's already being done, so it would have less impact. It would have as much impact as the original nuclear bomb. It's just people would say, oh, that's very derivative of the original invention. He's just gone and reinvented the wheel. Well, I can tell you, if I reinvented the wheel, I'd feel very proud of myself, because it would mean that I'd also invented time travel and successfully gone back in time to before the wheel was invented to reinvent it. Wouldn't expect too much credit for reinventing the wheel, although I'd probably get it undeservedly then, because people wouldn't realise it already being invented. But I'd want the credit for doing the time travel part of it. I think that would be the more impressive part of it. Or what would be the point if you're just going to use it to go back and do things that were already done? You're going to go back and effectively undo them and redo them. What would be the point in that? I don't know. Maybe the only reason to redo anything is to figure out how it works. You take something apart to figure out how it works, and I suppose it's the same with the space-time continuum. Why wouldn't it be? Why wouldn't it be the same with the space-time continuum? Everything's part of that. Everything's part of the space-time continuum. Covers a multitude of stuff. It covers space and time and continuity and discontinuity and all the rest. Everything between and from one end of the solar system to the other end and outside that, and the whole universe, basically. That's what it covers. Or maybe it doesn't. I don't know. I haven't read any of Professor Stephen Hawking's books. I haven't even done him that courtesy of reading his books. Why would I? I don't need to read them. I know what's in them. It's all stuff about fucking time travel. He comes up and says, me and Bobby. No, that's a different thing. Me and Bobby McGee. That's completely unrelated. That's a song. That's a country and western song. Goes, good enough for me and Bobby McGee that's some sort of a thing too. There's another thing as well, and it's called Back to the Future. It's a movie, and it's only sprung to mind now because I was thinking about Ghostbusters, because your man out of Ghostbusters died yesterday, and everyone was going, "Oh, your man out of Ghostbusters died." Here's a drawing. Someone put out a cartoon drawing of him appearing out of the ghost detection Hoover machine in Ghostbusters, and it said, "Oh, isn't this very profound and touching? Here's a picture of a dead actor coming out of a fictional ghost-busting Hoover machine. Isn't it great?" And everyone said, "Oh, that's great. I'm going to retweet that. I'm going to retweet it. It's being tweeted already, but I'm going to retweet it to add my 2 pence halfpenny of credit to it, and give it a bit of a push up in the charts, like you used to do when you went out and you bought Bohemian Rhapsody on vinyl. You'd say, 'Oh, I like Bohemian Rhapsody. I'm going to go out and buy a copy of it on a round thing.' At least you got a round thing in those days. When you get a tweet, it's nothing. It's just stuff. Incidentally, follow at Into Your Head Pod on Twitter, because that's me. And also follow at Irish Airwaves on Twitter, because that's the new me. Another me that does other stuff, or will be doing other stuff shortly when I get round to it. Taking my time. It's going to be a bit like that other thing I did a couple of years ago with the iPhone stuff, except it's going to be stuff that I'm interested in. I have this new thing where I decide I'm going to do stuff that I'm interested in, rather than stuff that bores the arse off me, such as, for example, what am I not going to? Well, anything. I'm not going to, there's somebody with green headlights over there in the next estate. Somebody's driving around with green headlights at 10 to 2 in the afternoon on the sunniest day in some time. He's got green this neighbourhood has gone to shit this week. There's people outside installing water meters outside every house. They have the place dug up and they're putting in water meters. They're going to measure every fucking ounce of H2O that we ingest now, starting later on in the year, because somebody in Brussels and the EU says we have to. He says you have to measure your water now and charge everyone accordingly. You can't be having different people all paying the same amount when they're clearly drinking different amounts of water and consuming different amounts of water. That's just taking the piss out of the people over in Ethiopia who they don't pay for water at all and don't get any. If they don't pay for water and they don't get any, then the people who do pay for water should be paying for it. That's the theory anyway. And they said, Ireland, you can have your bailout, but you have to put in water meters. So we're getting water meters now. We're going to be an advanced society that charges people for water. Absolutely fuck it. It's a sign of the world. It's a sign of the world going down the tubes. Through. Oh, what's that mean? Down the tubes. It doesn't mean anything, I know, but that's what something people say. They say the whole world is going down the tubes. They were up shit creek without a paddle. You wouldn't want to paddle in shit creek. You put your paddle down one side and then you'd lift it up and you'd put it down the other side, and then you get that stuff dripping all over your left arm from the other paddle that's being in the shit. So you don't want to be doing that. Maybe you do. I don't know. Maybe you prefer to have an onboard motor and then that would just put it spinning all over the place. That would have the same effect as the shit hitting the fan, except in this case it would be a motor going through the shit rather than the shit being flung at the fan. The motor fan thing would be driving through the shit. So at least it would be helping you get out of the shit, I suppose. I suppose that's preferable. An onboard motor on a boat that's driving you through shit creek and getting you out of shit creek is technically slightly less undesirable than having a fan over your head that's having shit flung at it, I suppose, if you want to look at it in those terms, if you want to take a positive attitude, I suppose. Anyway, good morning.
Into your head.